This is Bennett, the Great American Broadcast Network, now in its 8th year of talk like you've never heard it before.
Bishop's Intersection, tonight at midnight Eastern on Gabnet.
Ladies and gentlemen, Larry Bubbles Brown is a comedian who resides in San Francisco, California, my hometown, where I go to visit him every couple of weeks, and we knock off a couple of these interviews. And hello, Larry.
Hello, Alex.
Now,
I'll come out here live sometime.
Yeah, you were saying the last time that, and it would be the same now because we record two of these at a time, that it's a cold day in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the old line that somebody had about the coldest time I ever spent in San Francisco?
Coldest winter I ever spent was a summer in San Francisco.
That's the line. Yeah. Who was
Mark
that?
Twain?
Was that Mark Twain?
Yes.
Son of a
and there's my friend Louis Katz, a comic who now lives in New York. He said the hottest woman I ever fucked was a man in San Francisco.
Oh boy! Well, I'll tell you, what I always loved about San Francisco is I called it the world's only air-conditioned city. You know. You could have a hot day everywhere else. In San Francisco, there'd be a cool breeze coming through because there was a fog lying off the coast. You know,
right? It can, and these tourists come out here. They think it's California as a whole the same, like you know, palm trees and everything. They come out here and they're just in shorts and they just see them shivering.
Well, actually, you know, San Francisco was known in the early days for show business, for movies and so on, as the playground for Hollywood. They would come up to San Francisco. It was the thing to do, come to San Francisco and hang out because they love the city, you know. And it's a great city. It's one of the great cities.
And it's very cold, and then September and October is when we get the hot weather.
Yes, September and October.
I'll never forget October 4th, 87, you did a show at the Frost Amphitheater at Stanford, and it was 104 degrees.
It was 104 degrees, and what I remember distinctly was we had 9,000 people sitting on the lawn out there. And
Unbelievable.
And the thing is lined with trees. So when the sun would move, the shadow from the trees would shift across, and I could literally see a pattern of the trees in the people that were sitting on the lawn trying to get some kind of shade. But we wound up passing out water, I think, to people and spraying.
And they were spritzing water on people too. Yeah, it was really just broiling.
Yeah, but people were laughing.
And like you said, 9,000 people. That was the height of the boom.
Yeah, that was my biggest. That was my biggest show ever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I mean, what I was so proud of was that for I guess 5, 6, 7, 8 years, something like that, we did one show after another about every 3 months at some place that maybe held, and we do 2 shows a night, and we never had anything less than a sellout. You know, we would usually sell out within a day. Okay, and that was the culmination of it. And he said, okay, let's do the Frost Amphitheater. Let's see if we can fill that place. And we filled it, 9,000 people.
Yeah, I remember the Chronicle the next day wrote, this surely has to be the peak of the comedy boom. And I think they were right.
Did they say that? I didn't know.
Yeah.
That. Oh, really? Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. All right. You know, I mean, I remember it because it turns out that my business manager hadn't been handling my taxes that well for the company, and it had forgotten to pay certain taxes that we should have been paying. And it's not to dismay. I mean, he just, in those days, he wasn't as good a business manager as he is now, for a variety of reasons. But anyway, we owed something like $25,000 in taxes. And that's the worst thing that can happen to you folks, is to owe money in taxes, all right? Well, that show paid off my taxes, okay?
And then some, probably.
And then a little bit more, yeah. But basically, it paid the taxes. So I remember I got out of my tax problem with that show. And then we did another one the next year. I don't think we got 9,000 there, but we got about 5,000 people.
That was the Greek Theater in Berkeley.
No, we didn't. I think we did another one in Frost, if I'm not mistaken, didn't we?
I don't remember another one at Frost. I remember we did Mother's Day at Berkeley in '88.
Yeah, that one I remember.
We did.
Who was on that show? Do you remember?
I think the usual suspects.
What's her name? Who became a writer for Seinfeld?
Carol Leifer. Yeah,
Carol
she was on that. Good call. That was she was at the Berkeley show. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember because I think I had her as one of the headliners.
Yeah, she was, and she was really nice.
Were you on that show?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who else? Do you remember?
Feldman. I think Pearl.
Yeah. There were people I would always use, and I would always use them, number one, because I liked them, right? And secondly, because they could be counted on to do a good act.
Yeah.
You know, maybe not the funniest act in show business, but good, solid comedy. I guess my core group was Feldman, you, Reuben, Warren Thomas. Yeah.
We did a great show at the. I love that room, the Stone in Palo Alto. You did a couple of shows there.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that. Yeah. So anyway, you know, I mean, the Keystone. The Keystone was called.
Keystone, yeah.
Yeah, not the Stone. Keystone. The Keystone shows we did those regularly. Those were very good. But you know, I mean, we had some funny people back then. And
funny people, and you could, like you said, you could sell out a show pretty much anywhere back then.
Yeah. So you know, and of course, being on my show helped your worth when you went out. To the club.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, in fact, what I loved about my show was that it entitled comics who I liked to be able to go into a club and go, well, you know, I do the Alex Bennett program all the time. You got to pay me more.
Yeah.
You know, you could actually negotiate more money because you were more valuable because you did my show on a regular basis. And that made me feel real good because I felt I was aiding and abetting somebody's income.
Yeah, it worked for everyone. It was great.
You were talking last time about terrible interviews that we did. Did you remember any more?
I can't really recall anyone's. Not really.
It was pretty hard. It was pretty hard to have a bad interview because I was such a good interviewer.
Yeah, I remember. You know. Camille Paglia might have not been a bad interview, but she was so freaked out by the live audience, you had to take her into a.
Yeah, we had to go. We had to go into another room and do the interview. Yes, I remember that. The crowd bothered her, and then once I got her into that studio, she's supposedly a very difficult person. All right. But I got her into that other studio, and we got along fine.
Okay.
You know, we didn't have much trouble with each other. But yeah, I remember that.
But I remember sometimes people would come in to do the show, and they had no idea you had a live audience. Their reactions sometimes are kind of funny when they walked in. Like,
well, when we had the small studio in where by the way Twitter is now, in the bottom floor of the Furniture Mart, we had a very small studio, but we crushed people in there so we could have a live studio audience, right? Mm-hmm. And I had Edward James Olmos came on the show, and he walked into the studio and walked over to everybody who was sitting in that small studio and shook their hand. I'm Jim Olmos. Nice to meet you. I'm Jim. He shook hands with everybody.
Brilliant.
And I went, what a nice guy.
Yeah, they're going to love you after that.
And he was already a big star. I mean, he'd been on Miami Vice and a couple other things, you know. But I remember him being nice, and I remember the worst person that ever came into my studio was in that studio, that small little studio. Who do you think it was? Do you have any idea?
Was it an actor?
Yes, absolutely. Who else could be assholes but actors? Go ahead.
There's so many of them. I couldn't guess.
Christopher Reeve.
Really? Wow.
Yes. He came in and he had some kind of snit about his assistant and something she hadn't done. And he started reaming her out in front of the entire studio audience.
Ooh, that's
And he
not good.
was mean. He was mean. And that was the worst human being I've ever had in my studio. Yeah.
Wow. He had, I think he was one of Robin Williams' best friends.
He was Robin Williams' roommate in college. I don't care if he was Robin Williams' best friend. This guy was a jerk. Class A jerk.
I never would have guessed because he had such a nice reputation, or you would at least seemingly nice reputation.
When he fell off that horse and became paralyzed, basically in my own mind I was thinking, man, he got what he deserved.
Yeah. Wow.
Really, I've never seen anybody treat another human being who worked for him so badly in my life. And I just
in front of the audience.
In front of the audience, yeah, they were all.
So they were horrified.
They were horrified. It was not right of him, you know. It was terrible. It was just terrible. I was aghast at what he had pulled off there. And when he left, I mean, everybody was coming up to me going, "Wow, what was with that guy?" You know.
Jeez.
And I thought to myself, you know, he's not that good an actor, you know. You can get snotty like that if you're a terrible if you're a good actor, but when you're a mediocre actor, please don't try that. Yeah. But anyway, so that was the worst person that I ever had in the studio.
There must have been more.
You know something, I got to tell you, for the most part, I usually never had problems with interviews. You know, I said earlier, and it sounded like I might have been bragging, that, you know, you could say, well, what bad interviews did I do? And the fact is that I did very few bad interviews because I was such a good interviewer. And I think the one thing that I have known over the years is my abilities as an interviewer.
You proved that once by you took at random. You took a caller and you said, "I'm going to interview the next caller." And for some, I just remember it was a really good interview.
What I did, I wanted to prove something, that you could interview anybody.
Yeah, and it worked.
And I said, I'm going to take the next caller and I'm going to interview them, right, as opposed to taking their call. And so I took the next call, and I think it was a guy. It might have been a woman, I can't remember. It would have to be one or the other. Well, not these days. It couldn't be. It could be one of 20 different sexual identities, which I want to get to in a second. And I went and started interviewing this person like I would interview anybody, and would start going into their life in intimate detail and finding moments in their life that were actually interesting stories. And at the end of it, I proved that I could interview anybody. You know, and that was true. I mean, I never bragged about. I never thought I had that great a voice. I never thought I was that great a commercial reader. I never thought I was that great a radio personality. But when it came to interviews, that was my bailiwick. That was the thing I did, I think, exquisitely, and take great pride in. And so there was very seldom any such thing as a bad interview with me. Now, you know how I got that interview skill? I'll tell you, it's interesting. I was at WPLJ in New York, and one of the things they made me do was a Sunday morning talk show of interviews with people that they could pass off as public service, because you had to do so much public service on your radio station in those days. And so they would hand me things like the head of the Boy Scout troop, you know. I mean, just people that just seemed to be almost like you couldn't interview them.
Mm-hmm.
And by will of force, I found a way to interview all these people and make them interesting. And that's when I learned how to interview. Prior to that, I had been a mediocre interviewer, but after that, I learned how to just how to suss out every inch, every corner of somebody's life and try and make it explode. Okay, so.
Well, even the dullest person will usually have an interesting story if you can find it.
Well, I often wanted to do a show that way, that everybody has a story, and just take, like I did that day, just somebody, and just say, okay, let me start talking to you. Let me start interviewing you. Let me start asking you about your life. And I think you would find that most people do have, at least somewhere in their lives, several good stories.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, even you out there are listening, saying, "Well, I don't have any good stories." But if you and I sat down, I would dig out that good story.
Yeah.
You know, and that was the job of me. That was my job. The job of the interviewer was to answer the questions, but not grunt as Iggy Pop did with me, or belch at the end of it, or be as dull as we talked last time as Wally Shawn, who, again, I want to say a lovely person who I'm still a big fan of. I love him on Young Sheldon. But I think the world of Wally Shawn, but God, was he boring. Oh,
I would think actors in general would be kind of tenuous subjects to interview because a lot of them aren't all that bright.
Well, you know something? I don't find that a big problem, because still they're there to, by their force of personality, so they can survive it. I'll tell you who I never could stand interviewing: politicians.
The worst, yeah.
And I'll tell you why. Because they have an agenda, and no matter what you do, they're going to go with that agenda. You know. They're going to have those hot points, topic points that they're going to bring up, and they're just horrible. I mean, they never will give you a straight answer. I've had some that have people I didn't expect would be that way. I loved Tom DeLay, a guy who I think he wound up in jail, as a matter of fact. I interviewed him, and I thought he was terrific. I thought he was just very real. I know that sounds difficult, folks, when I say Tom DeLay, but it was true. And another guy I loved interviewing, Pat Buchanan, because you could always get a straight answer out of Pat Buchanan. But everybody else, it was always, you say, you did such and such and such and such, why did you do that? And then they would go, well, it reminds me of a story. And they knew how to take any way you wanted to drag them and drag you in the other direction. And that's very difficult when you're sitting there trying to interview somebody. And that's why I always hated politicians, is because they did exactly that. They always had their agenda, and that was it, and so be it.
Right.
And I don't know that I find that particularly a stimulating time to spend with somebody. But actors, some of them are kind of dumb, and some of them are just amazingly, they amaze you. Some of the ones that I'm trying to remember now who amazed me, but sometimes an actor you didn't think would be a lot of fun to interview turned out to be terrific.
Do you remember? Didn't you have Steven Seagal on once? I'm trying to remember how that one went.
Yeah. I had him on with Dana Gould, and was it him? Yeah, it was him that did this line. He said to him something. There's something went back and forth with he and Steven Seagal, and he said, "You're not going to hit me, are you?" And Seagal went, "The day's still young." But Seagal wasn't that pleasant, But
he was big though at the time.
He was big. I could never figure out why Steven Seagal was big.
Yeah, he did well though. And
Well,
Dana Gould, Dana Gould and I were on one morning, and you know who was scheduled to be on and almost didn't come on because they heard us coming down in the car was at the time it was Bruce Jenner.
Was Bruce Jenner on my show?
Yeah, and Dana and I were on like an hour before him, and I guess he thought we were so foul he didn't want to be part of it.
Oh. I don't remember having Bruce Jenner.
Yeah, he came in and did the show, but he almost pulled off.
You know something, folks? I believe it if Bubbles says it's true.
Yeah.
Okay, but I never thought I don't remember having Bruce Jenner on the show.
And I don't remember how the interview with him went, but he did show up. I remember that.
Wow. And it was you and who else? And Dana?
Dana Gould, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. See, and people say that to me, you know. Like, somebody pointed out one day, oh, you remember the time you had Lisa Kudrow on? I went, what? I had Lisa Kudrow on my show? They said, yeah, she was with this comedy group, and they all came on, and she was part of it. And I went, no, I don't remember. What's his name? The comic, Lewis Black. I'm interviewing Lewis Black over at Sirius XM. And he says, you remember me, don't you? I said, I'm supposed to? And he said, yeah, I did your show in San Francisco years ago. He said, but you might not remember me. I wasn't shouting back then. You know, he had learned how to do that a few years after that. He said, no, I did your show, and you were very nice to me, and I thank you for that. And I went, geez, you know, the people I've had on that I don't remember or don't know I had on is probably longer than the list of the people I can remember. Because every morning...
It'd be nice if you could compile a list of everyone you interviewed on the Live 105 years.
Well, my producers will like pile in all these interviews on me. You know, we get this actor, and we get this comedian, we get this musician, and whatever. And every morning we go through maybe 4 different interviews. And so I guess after a period of, how many years was I at Live 105? You know, after that many years, I think it was something like 11. You've got how many people you interviewed, and you're gonna forget a lot of them because they just come through. It's just like, here's another one, here's another one, here's another one, here's another one. You know.
Well, let's say you do 250 shows a year.
Yeah, I do
and
3.
If you have 4 people on a show, that's 1,000 a year.
Yeah, and then we got the comics on top of it.
Yeah,
the comics were always kind of like they were the bedrock of the show, and they would be in there, and then we would bring in the interview, and the comedians would still be there, you know. So
it was so great having everybody in the show in the studio at once.
Sometimes we would have 5, 6 comedians all in that studio at the same time, and I don't know what it sounded like on the air, but I'm sure it was just this wall of sound.
A little chaotic. There's too many comics. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, and especially if you got somebody like a bunch of riffers on.
If you had like Slayton and Warren and Pearl.
yeah. I mean, it was just madness. It was just madness. You know, those were rough days for me. But you know, they made for good shows, but they were rough.
Yeah.
And then we'd all go to breakfast.
Good times.
Stuffed bagel.
Yeah. Stuffed bagel.
Yeah, there's a place called the Stuffed Bagel, folks.
I think Kevin Pollak was a partner in that, wasn't he?
I don't know if he was, but we used to have breakfast there every morning for free because we would plug it, and they did a lot of business because of us. And I would invite all the comedians who were on the show in the morning to meet over at the Stuffed Bagel and have breakfast.
Yeah,
you know. It was a nice time for everybody,
much better time.
Yeah, you know that kind of radio. People say, "Well, gee, come back to San Francisco and do that kind of show again," and I go, "Never could do it." You know, even just the atmosphere wouldn't allow me to have a studio audience. You know,
yeah,
because we can't let all those people into the studio. That would cause problems, People could come in with guns and blah, yeah. You just wouldn't do it.
They'd say what they always say. Oh, we can't. It's liability issues.
Yeah. So
that's the answer for everything. Liability.
Liability. Yeah. Screw you.
Do you remember? I wanted to bring this up.
Yeah. Make it quick because we're running out of time. Go ahead.
There was a cop had been shot, and you said something that somebody made a joke. I don't know if it was you, but I remember then a bunch of cops showed up at the station, and it got kind of tense for a while.
Really? I don't know what we said about cops.
I don't think you made a joke about it. It might have been one of the comics, but a couple of them came down to the studio. I don't know if they got kind of like a show of force there, like what the fuck's going on?
Those are the days when the cops asserted themselves.
Yeah.
Anyway, now they just stand outside a classroom while kids are being killed. Anyway.
Yes,
nice talking to you, Larry.
Yes, let's ending on a high note.
Bye.
This is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network, now in its 8th year of talk like you've never heard it before.
Hey, there we go, Larry Bubbles Brown. Thank you, Larry. Appreciate it. And we'll talk to you next week. We always like to talk to Larry every week. So it's a good time for me. Also allows me to spend a half hour that I don't have to do this show. Do I need to shave? Do I need to trim this up? I don't know. I don't care. You know what? I'm getting to the point where I don't care about stuff anymore. Latest problem I'm having is my Apple Mail is not picking up my GabNet mail. Okay? Yeah, that's right. Not picking up my GabNet mail. For some reason, whenever it's alex@gabnet.net, it just doesn't pick up. So it's a real problem. And this has just been in the last, 48 hours, something like that this has started to happen, and now it just doesn't even find it. There is something wrong somewhere. My iPad picks it up fine, gets all my mail just perfectly. So I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense to me. But what the hell? That's the way it is, and But it's problems like that, and I spent all day trying to find the problem, and I've done everything, and now I finally determined it's not me, it's not my machine. It's something to do with the program and the thing it's trying to pick up, okay? That isn't the same on the iPad. So it's not me. And I finally get to the part where I'm going, I don't give a shit whether I get my mail or not. Just, I've had it. Right? Anyway, by the way, Jack is still out tonight and probably will be, I'd say, for a while. Okay? They've got him in what I call medical hell, which is, let me turn my mic up here. Medical hell, which is, one test after another, trying to figure it out. Oh my God, we don't know what's wrong with you. It may be, they say it may either be his spine or his urinary system, or it just could be something else, which was just nothing. And, when they do that, I said, they treat a human being like he's a machine, like he's a computer. Oh, you brought your computer into us because it doesn't work. Okay, well, we'll figure out what's wrong with it. It isn't this, and it isn't that, and it isn't this. And they treat you like a computer rather than just say, it's just, it goes on forever. And I'm glad I haven't gotten myself in that, and I've fought to keep myself out of it, in what I call that medical hell, where they get you in this on a treadmill, one thing after another, one thing after another, one thing after another, and he's going through all kinds of tests, and he fell down 3 times, another 3 times, another couple of times. He's fallen down, he said, maybe 6 times in the last 2 weeks, but in one day he fell down 3 times. So because he fell down, they're assuming it's everything else. A lot of other things, and it might not be. Who knows? Who knows what it is? But we wish him the best of luck. And if you know his number, give him a call. Say hello to him. Make sure he's okay. Make him sure that he's missed by everybody, which he is, obviously. Or write him an email if you know how to get an email to him, and just pick his spirits up, because he's just he doesn't know what to think. Okay, and neither do I, neither do you, neither does anybody else. So that's what's going on with him. And bravo, Jack. We wish you the best. Okay, and in the meantime, we'll just play reruns. In fact, oh God, I got to put another. Well, I'll run the same rerun I ran last night. And then I'll figure out something to do to put in his place of old shows of his. But over the week, I just haven't had a chance to do it. So we'll do it this weekend. Anyway, let's go get some callers on here. What callers there are. They're a small amount lately when we start off. Oh, geez. What was that? What was that? Ooh. Hey, hi, how are you? Jeff and Josh and Alan, hello.
Hello.
Good evening to all of you. Okay, what do you want to talk about?
Oh, good question.
Oh,
Huh?
then what's going on?
What's going on? I don't
Oh.
know.
Are you a veteran who happens to have any form of cancer caused by your service to our government?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, well, then you'll be fine, so it's good.
What do you mean?
I mean, apparently, we failed to pass a health care bill to, provide health care to veterans that we made sick for like the 350th time, so you'll be fine.
We didn't pass that bill? I wasn't paying attention.
Some kind of blockage by the Republican Party. I don't know. And, I'm sure they've got some stick up their ass about it, including, one of the people on that list of people who refuses to block it is, Mitt Romney, who you guys will all be trying to tell me later is, the most sensible Republican there is. And I always just roll my eyes and say, yeah, whatever. He's true to his own colors when the time comes for payment.
I don't understand that. That it's not part of the concept I have of him, that I would think he would care more about the veterans.
So he is what he is. I mean, I don't know what their particular objections are. They'll have some sort of game they'll try to run, and they'll say it was,
excuse me, I have to
underhanded, and
I just found out, I'm always screwing up, by the way, on this show. Hold on just one second here, because I have to go put our Zoom panel on here. I'm talking to these people, and nobody knows who I'm talking to. Okay, there we go. Oh boy. Anyway, go ahead, as you were saying.
That's just, I probably need to read an article or whatever and get up on what their exact objections are. But like I said, I'm sure they'll run around and say it was some sort of underhanded move, or the way that the Democrats were trying to pass it is dirty, or they were trying to attach some bill to give tax credits to people who own turtles, or some ridiculous night like we were trying to trick them. I mean, it's come on. It's a bill to provide health care to veterans who became sick doing a service that you later found out could make them sick. And not only did you not do much about it at the time, but now you won't even take care of them after the fact. You can't hide from it. Just
what gets me, have you seen the stuff Jon Stewart's been saying?
Right. I mean, that's he's on that, just like he was for the 9/11 responders stuff that they took. Half the people that needed it were dead by the time they got around to paying for it.
Yeah. Well,
so I mean, like literally. So
he made a point. And his point was, somehow you can pass bills to give more money to the military, but you can't pass money to take care of the people who were in it.
Right.
I mean, it's
this is part of defense spending. I mean, it is just part of the cost of doing, defense business, if you will. I mean, yeah, maybe I can try to find out what their exact particular objections were. I've been pretty busy the last 48 hours, but I just know that, there was a list of 25 people I saw put out who were holding it up, and Mitt Romney was on there, and Rob Portman was on there, my senator from Ohio. So I've seen a few things about it locally here. I mean, Rob Portman's even retiring, so I don't know whose ass he's trying to kiss or whatever. But like I say, I mean,
but
these people, they are who they are. They don't change their stripes, and
let me explain to you. This is Rob Portman's last chance to be a total asshole.
I guess, or maybe a decent human being. But I mean,
yeah.
Again, I don't know what the deal is. I mean, even if there is something that you don't like about, I mean, then just accept it. Then that's the way they did it. I mean, there's plenty of shit people don't like. Deal with that when the time comes. But you have to take care of people. But look, we see this, before. I mean, they'll moan and groan about having to, send money when there's a hurricane or something like that. I mean, and it's usually the Republican Party that holds that kind of stuff up or whatever. I mean, it's the same shit over and over and over again. So if the people aren't tired of it yet, then let them keep suffering. And
yeah, I don't understand why they aren't tired of it. I just don't understand why they aren't tired of it. Because I mean, it's just inhumane. It would seem to me that if you're a congressman or you're a senator, your job is to do whatever you can to help the public out, whatever their problems seem to be, and that comes first. But these guys tomorrow, you want to put a bill for more guns and weapons for the military, and they'll pass the bill immediately. But when they want to send them somewhere where they're going to get diseases or whatever, if they come back with them, well, you're on your own, pal. Oh, by the way, thank you for your service.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't have problems with, things of philosophy, an economic package or whatever, and they're arguing that this isn't how we think we should run this, or this isn't how we should fix this problem. Whatever. I mean, some of the things that they say in those arguments, I think are stupid, but it's fine. I can understand that. They don't want to fix the problem the way that I do or whatever. Okay, fine. That's called democracy. That's called our political system. I mean, that's just called life, right? But when it comes to certain things, I mean, I just don't understand, and I don't care what your excuse is. I don't care. I mean, one of the things, like Patrick and I talk about this sometimes, like one of the things that bothers me in life is I have nothing against like the Wounded Warriors Foundation or the Paralyzed Veterans of America and all that. I don't have anything against them, but I'm sorry. We shouldn't need them. We should not need either. They should not exist.
Oh, no, I totally agree. I've said over and over and over again that I don't believe in giving to things like that because you're not having the government live up to their job. I mean, I certainly praise Gary Sinise and those guys who do all that and they get all that done. I mean, but I'm just saying really what they should be doing is they should be pouring all the money they get into paying off congressmen, paying off senators, and getting bills passed.
I mean,
because,
it's
simply building a house for them is.
I'm sorry, but like if you went to Iraq or Afghanistan or Vietnam or whatever, and both of your legs were blown off with an IED, I'm sorry, but the Wounded Warriors Foundation should not have to come to your home and build a fucking wheelchair ramp. They should not. You know who should do it? The United States of America.
Well, I've said this.
I'm sorry,
but I've said this in the past over and over again, even when I was doing over-the-air broadcasting. I was saying this, that I just don't believe in giving to these organizations because it's the government that should be doing it, and we're taking the onus off of them because they're going to go, oh, hey, we don't have to fix that. Look, there's the Wounded Warriors organization.
If that's the way that it is, I wouldn't punish the people that need it, but I mean, I just don't. I can't believe that we have to have them exist. I mean,
Jon Stewart shouldn't have to get up and give speeches like he's been giving.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, yeah. I mean, maybe if these organizations wanted to do like other things, you know, like extra mile type stuff, like parties and you know, dinners and things. I mean, I guess, but they literally raise money to provide veterans with like basic things, like I said, like wheelchair ramps or a wheelchair accessible
hey, listen,
car,
I got news for everybody.
things like that.
I got news for everybody. And listen, old Alex, he's wise in his old age, and that is that if you want to get a lot of things passed, then you should raise money, not to like do various and sundry things. You should only raise money to have enough money to pay off congressmen and senators, because those guys are just on the take. And if they're on the take, but we're paying them off, then they're going to do it for us.
Yeah, I mean, it does make me, and I'll let everybody else go here now because I know I started a lot, but I mean, it just makes me sick that not only the overall situation of that, but but today and yesterday we have a current event where, you know, there are politicians in Washington literally arguing, just like they do about every fucking goddamn other thing, about providing health care to veterans who got sick because of something that they had them do. And as a matter of fact, that when they did it, they really didn't have a choice to do it. They were ordered to do it. I mean, you know, it wasn't like my workplace.
But by the way,
I don't know, I feel unsafe doing this. You know, at my workplace, they might put their hands up and say, okay, let's sit down and talk about it. In these guys' case, that was not how it worked. Just do whatever needs to be done to take care of them after you've made the mistake.
Well, by the way, thank you for your service.
Yeah. And it also opens the door for these scammers to make money off of those type of, you know, making these type of donation places, and then it gets me wary about them too. I have friends that do car shows out in Kevin too, you know, for Wounded Warriors and those type of things. But you know, you see a lot of these other smaller things, and it's like, wow, you know, are these guys scammers? Or yeah, like Josh says, you know, this is basic stuff that should be taken care of, and it's not, you know, these are millions and millions and billions of dollars for all these other things, and then they can't even take care of these things that cost $1,000 for guys who sacrifice everything. So.
Well, what I don't get, you know, is a government that wants to do away with Medicare. You know, I mean, why? What? Don't you want to help people? Isn't what a government is? It's like a potluck dinner. Everybody brings something, and everybody shares from it. You know, I mean come on.
Does it go back to, you know, like Reagan and these guys saying, "Oh, we want government out of stuff," and you know, people so wary about government, then they try to get government out, and then they just don't care. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I honestly can't. I can't understand their objection. I mean, I can't. I don't know. I don't know what Mitt Romney or Rob Portman could sit here in this room to me and say that would make me not roll my eyes. I mean, I don't give a fuck what, you know what I mean? I mean, just fucking get it done. I mean, but like, I mean, how long did it take to actually pass legislation that legitimately would maybe finally take care of the 9/11 responders? It was like 20 years.
Hey, you have to understand.
We just did it like 2 or 3 years ago.
Josh, you have to understand this. Too busy trying to pass laws so we lose our right to vote. Okay? So, you know.
Yeah, I mean, they do get around to, you know, worrying about, you know.
Well, no, I just said, I said this with Trump, but it almost seems that it goes for these people we're talking about. They must get up every morning and say, how am I going to fuck the American public over today? You know, what kind of horrible, devilish scheme can I come up with to make their life worse? Were you going to say something, Kevin?
Yeah, you know, it's both sides. I mean, it's obviously both sides, because they do come up with these bills that are legitimate bills, but both sides fuck with the bills. You know, if it's, from what I understand, this bill that Stewart was, you know, working on, they threw in some pork in there or something with $400 million of some shit that the GOP got pissed off at, and that's why they supposedly didn't, you know, go along with it in the end. But that's that's the problem, is that they don't leave the bills alone, and they don't just leave clean bills and vote on them and let them go through. They throw shit in there to fuck it all up. And that's the problem now, is that make a bill, vote on it, move on to the next one, make a bill, vote on it, move on to the next one. Everything becomes a political football, and that's the problem.
Well, why don't we come up with like an anti-pork law or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Where
I mean,
if you're going to have a bill, that's it. That's the bill. It's not you
That's
can't.
it.
Yeah.
things would probably move a lot faster. I mean, who is going to vote against what they were voting on, the burn pits?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. By the way,
who's going to vote against that?
By the way, somebody.
But it's the other shit that's in there that people get pissed off about and start going, "Oh, you can't do this." That's what happens with almost every bill. It's the other bullshit that they try to shove in there, and that's when everything gets fucked up.
Yeah. Boy, she's gotten shorter.
And she's listening to me cuss away.
Well, no, go ahead.
Well, I mean, look, he's right. I mean, I would be fine with an adjustment like that. I mean, some rules in the two houses of Congress, and they make their own rules. I mean, I would be fine with adjustments like that laid out more restrictions to the amendment processes and things like that to make it difficult, if not nearly impossible, for people to attach garbage to this kind of stuff, because it's getting in the way of legislating, which is the job of the legislative branch. It's to legislate.
Can you imagine how many more bills would go through bipartisan?
Yeah.
If there were,
yeah, right. I mean, they have to make some sort of adjustment. I mean, because you can't continually have this kind of stuff held up.
Well, I'd say let's make a bill allowing where they can't put pork in these bills anymore. But of course, while they're arguing it, they're going to be putting some pork in that bill. So
probably.
Or they'd argue that they don't want the pork. They don't want the pork in the bill. They don't want to
pork in
bills.
They
don't want to restrict pork.
Well, I mean, it's just I mean, but even in this particular case, some of the people that are arguing over, they think there is unnecessary spending in these bills. I mean, like Kevin said, it really is from both sides. I mean, Rob Portman and all these other guys. I mean, they've all voted for tremendously fucking stupid spending things in the past. I mean, so fucking just get over it this time and do something to help people.
They're told how to vote too, by their party. And the Republican Party likes to be the party of assholes. They love relishing in their job as assholes. So what was Adrian whispering in your ear, Brian?
I don't know. I told her we're in serious talk to get out.
Did you tell her?
She started saying something. I said, I don't care.
Because I'm blasting F-bombs.
Yeah. I don't.
Sorry.
No.
It should upset people. I mean,
we can't. Who can blame you, Kevin? Because she hides behind Daddy, and then occasionally shows her face, so you don't even know she's there.
I think we talked about that on other huge bills that they're trying to pass and they couldn't, right? Like you guys are saying, they start adding so many things on these bills that there's stuff for everybody to argue about, and then they get nothing done.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, look, we live in a very dysfunctional society, and I don't think it's going to get any better. I think it's just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse. And I think I won't be around for it, but there is going to be a civil war sometime soon. It may not be the same kind of traditional war with guns and so on, but it's going to be a war of words and so on, in which you're going to find part of the country seceding from the Union, which is just fine with me. Go away. Leave us alone. We can get along without you. How would you feel about that, Josh, about certain states saying we're going to secede from the Union?
No, we can't. I mean, we can't allow that.
Why can't we allow it? These
Well,
people
'cause
are
I
making
mean,
our
it's-
lives a living hell anyway. You know?
Well, this, look, people in this country disagree about certain things, and that's fine. We have to work together and get past that. But I just, secession now is the same as secession was the first time it was tried, and all the other times it's been threatened. It's the first step to basically to just lawlessness, because then anyone can, negative a law anytime they want. It's a nullification, and secession or a path to where no laws ever mean anything to anyone. So, once you're in, you're in. There's no getting out.
Yeah.
So,
But isn't it different now where it's not like we just don't disagree? It's like you're wrong, so fuck you, right? I mean, I think it's a lot different than it was before.
yeah, I mean, but it's just, we're not at a level amongst that. I mean, listen, in the antebellum period, it's those last few years, especially. I mean, congressmen and senators beat each other up on the House and Senate floor. There was massive bloodshed well before the Civil War. I mean, the decade that that led up to the crisis of the 1850s, if you will. I mean, it was the population at large was killing each other in decent numbers. You had the John Brown affair, and Bleeding Kansas, and on and on. I mean, we're not even in the same.
No,
right
but,
now we
but
just
I'm
have a lot
saying
of
that
internet
I
nastiness.
think there will be some states are going to want to secede from the union, and I'm saying let them go. Goodbye. Don't let the
I mean,
door
I
hit
don't
you on
think
the
it'll
ass
ever come
on
to
the
that,
way
because
Yeah.
first of all, that what rules everybody is money, and they're never going to give up the federal government's money.
out. Well, but they can create their own federal government, have their own money and their own taxes.
Well, I think in the case of
Borders.
Texas, that would be fine right until.
Well, then
a
I'm
hurricane
suggesting that some of us states secede, like New York. And
That's all we need is more borders, right?
hits. Yeah.
we've got borders anyway. I
Yeah,
mean,
but
what's
try
going
to enforce those.
What's going on in most of the South right now is so different from what's going on in this part of the United States. So
That would just be a mess, and I don't think that'll ever happen.
yeah.
It did happen, though.
Well, it's happening on it's happening on an opinionated level. It's not happening on a physical level. I don't think. It's more people just being opinionated, and that's what this country's about, is being opinionated.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's going to get to the point where people are shoving guns up each other's throats,
Yeah.
and that's what we're talking about here.
I mean, you can talk about like January 6th, for example, but if you just think about it, I mean, in the late 1850s, early 1860s, there was a January 6th somewhere in America, almost, weekly. I mean, state houses and county offices,
Yeah, well, when I say
state
though,
courts.
when I say a civil war, I'm not talking about a literal, people pick up guns and start shooting at each other. But you can have a war. You can have an economic war, and people can disappear, from the Union. Quite frankly, I wish they'd go. I don't want them around. They're ruining my life. Phil seems to be having a problem here. Oh, there he is.
He'll blame you, I'm sure.
He'll blame me
Yeah,
or Biden.
Brian. Brian's fault.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I like what Josh said. What we really need is the line item veto, and that would probably get a lot of the pork out of these bills. But for one reason or another, they don't want that.
They don't want anything. They want, especially your people.
It falls on both sides of the line.
It does.
You think so?
I mean, everybody is so against it, but they're
All right,
really
let me
not.
just put it this way. The Republicans are bigger assholes than the Democrats are. Would you agree with that assumption?
No, I think they all feed at the same trough.
Yeah, I agree with Phil, especially under this new president. He's not doing much.
Well, he's not doing much, but that's not because he I don't think he knows how to play the game anymore. When in the days when he was in the Senate, there was a certain way the game was played, The whole game has changed since then.
Oh yeah.
And so a guy who was in the Senate, I mean, like for instance, LBJ knew how to just wrangle those people and get them to do what he wanted them to do. And it's because he was in the game pretty much up until he started going with Kennedy. Then he became president within 3 years. He knew how to handle those people. But Biden's been away from the Senate, been from away from Capitol Hill for so long now that I don't think the game is being played the same way, and he doesn't know how to play the new game. I think that's his problem. So,
In Contra Costa County, when you give the fire department, all the firefighters' families, brand new carpet linoleum, you get a picture with them in front of a fire engine.
really, is that what he got?
He didn't supply him with free carpet. It's a picture. The company that he owns donated some money or something like that.
It's for the work I did with the Stephen Siller Foundation, Tunnel of Towers. They presented me with a piece of the World Trade Center. I have a.
Oh, that's really upbeat.
He got a part of the toilet seat from the 33rd floor.
I got a piece of the steel. This guy that's handing it to me, he was at the 9/11, and he was from a Brooklyn.
You sound like some old lady. He was at the 9/11.
Oh, 9/11. Yeah, he was out of a Brooklyn fire department, and they flew him out to present shadow boxes to the people that participated in the in raising money for the Tunnel of Towers.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, as we were saying before, you know, it helps some people, but it doesn't solve the problem.
Yeah. At that point, we had already built 51 homes.
Yeah.
And turned them over, no charge, to veterans that have lost their lives. We paid off.
Wait a minute. How do you give a key to a
mortgages.
veteran who lost his life?
No, lost his limbs.
Oh, okay. You
They
said
had to
life.
lose 3 or 4 limbs.
Which goes back to the point, why are organizations like that around when the government should be doing it?
Because it's needed.
Because the
and
government
somebody
is not,
has to, somebody has to step up.
Not doing it.
That's
Somebody
right.
has to step up.
Well, we should.
If the government doesn't do
you
it.
should use that time and energy to get the people on Capitol Hill to do your bidding.
The government
They're not
should
going
be
to do our
doing it.
bidding.
What do you mean they shouldn't do our
I
bidding?
work-
They're not going to do our bidding. It's not that they shouldn't.
They will
but
do
they're
our
just not
bidding
going
if
to.
instead of taking the money that would have been spent in building those houses, we went and put it in line their pockets and they had to go do something about it. You know,
It's a drop in a bucket. It's $500,000 a house. And so at this point,
if you gave $500,000 to a politician, he'd suck your dick. Okay.
yeah, maybe.
How do you know he hasn't? So,
If $500,000 to the
2019
government is a drop in the bucket, then buy him a house.
yeah,
Well, in 2019, I'll show you what I did.
there's a lot of flooding going
That
on.
was Santa Claus for Home for Our Troops,
Yes,
but that
Phil, we don't want to see what you did because when you got to show people what you did, then you did it so you could show people what you did.
See that? $1,130,000.
Isn't Photoshop
Did
great?
you just hear
How
what
you
I
can put
said,
the picture
Phil?
in there?
When you have to show us a picture of what you did, then what you did you weren't doing because for any other reason than you wanted a picture to be able to show people what
Not
you
necessarily, you know, but what it shows is that companies get behind people that need, and our veterans and firefighters and police officers, first responders needed our help and continue to need our help, and we still do it with.
So the point is, Phil, the point is that we don't deny that you do that. The point is that the government should be doing it and not you.
Exactly.
That's the point.
See, I don't believe that the government should do anything.
Why? Why?
Because their responsibility.
Hold on a second, Phil. Why the hell do you pay taxes?
They go to work
Build
for the
roads.
government. They go to work for the government. They put their life on the line for the government. They burn pit for the government. They inhale shit for the government, and then they come home and they're supposed to go on their own.
Well, now, because the government does help them to rehab, but the problem is their caregivers are under such pressure that they have to be there all the time. So by giving them a home that's a smart home that allows them to be
No. You're going off again. You're going off track.
It allows them to be more independent.
Off track again. You're not listening. Why doesn't the government take care of their own? Simple question.
Why do they have to raise money to put ramps in veterans' homes when they need it after coming
Why
back?
should you
This
do
is above and beyond.
Phil, why should you do what the government should be doing? Why should you take the onus off of them and the responsibility off of them for dealing with a situation like this? You take a human being, you send them to another country, you use them as cannon fodder, you bring them back wounded, and then you say, hey, thank you for your service. And now guys like you have to raise $1 million to build a couple of houses.
We're not putting you down for it, Phil. It's just the fact that the question is why do people like you and me, I worked for Homes for Our Troops. I did that too. But why should we have to do it when our government should be doing it?
By the way, let me just mention, Kevin, that I didn't know you did that because you never mention it. Phil is always mentioning what he did.
Because that's how we raise money and awareness.
The best kind of giving is the giving you do silently. I'll give you an example. Do you know who gave, and he doesn't like people to know about it, gave a ton of money to Firehouse in his neighborhood in New York City? I mean, a couple of $1 million worth to the Firehouse because they had a lot of people they lost in 9/11. David Letterman, he told them, if anybody ever says that I gave you guys money, I'm never going to give you another penny again. Okay? And Phil, the fact that you're sitting there and you're showing the check and you're making a big deal, Kevin, we never heard that he did what he did. And he probably only mentioned it now as a matter of course.
Let me just say,
Alan.
Yeah, so I thank Kevin for doing that, and I thank Phil for doing that. And I understand what you're saying. Phil doesn't need to put up all the pictures to gloat, but I think Phil did it for the right reasons, and I think Kevin did it for the right reasons. Because our fucking government won't do it, so other organizations step in and help people out.
But don't you understand that by doing that, we take the responsibility off the government to have to do it?
Correct.
Phil doesn't understand that, though. Phil doesn't understand that.
You're only seeing a portion of the picture. The government is rehabbing these people. They're paying for multiple operations and so forth. What this foundation does is by giving houses to these
Tell us exactly what they're
women,
doing. Give us an example of what they're doing.
They're building smart houses so that the
who's building smart houses?
The government pays for operations and so forth.
And they should continue by putting them in the houses that they need.
Right.
Why are they sew them up and they send them out?
These houses are more for the family to allow the veteran to be independent.
We know what they're for, Phil. You don't have to give us a lecture on it. We know what they're for. We're just saying that
the point that we're trying to make, Phil, and you're making perfectly good points. The point is that the government should be doing what Mr. Siller is doing and what HOFOT is doing and what all these other organizations are doing. They're taking the burden off the government, what they should be doing.
Well, it's in years past when a person's barn burned down, the community helped them raise another one. And
a war.
Well, it doesn't matter. These people are in need.
What the government asked them to do.
You don't see me posting stuff up here on Wounded Warrior, but every month they take out of my credit card. They take a certain amount of money that I donate, but I don't need to broadcast it and put all these pictures all over the place.
Yeah, well,
look at me.
I did it. Look at my big. Look at me. But for look at this.
Look at my big check. You can't cash because it's too big.
Believe me, they cashed it.
Not that check.
Well, the money.
The money.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That was part of the promo.
So Phil, on their website right here, Wounded Warriors Project is committed to helping those living with PTSD.
Right. Well,
so why do they need to help them with this? You're saying that they do all this rehab for people. Why are they spending any money on that?
because we're human beings and we want to do better for our fellow man.
Well,
If-
then when
if
are
they
you
know
going
that
to
everybody-
tell your goddamn Republican congressmen and senators to care about their common man?
If
Well,
they,
they do.
that-
Yeah, well,
No,
the
they don't.
Democrats don't care
if they
either.
dealt with it, Wounded Warriors would have nobody to help with living with
Yeah,
PTSD.
if they were helping, yeah, you wouldn't have to have a Stephen Stiller Foundation.
Why did this bill not pass today?
And here's the other one: help veterans suffering from toxic exposure. Why are they having to help them on that?
Yeah, the bill didn't pass today. They didn't help them there.
Oh,
What pork did they tag onto that? Josh probably.
Who cares what pork they tagged on
Well,
to?
you know, you can't
It was
necessarily
all but
pass
done,
something.
Bill.
Yeah.
They all agreed to it, but
Was
They-
this the 700 billion that?
it was 400 million or something. It wasn't that bad.
no.
In fact, I heard the amount.
$400
I heard the
million.
amount, and I went, "Is that going to get us anything?" You know, it started out at 3 trillion or something, or 3 billion, and then it got down to about 400 million. And I'm thinking, is that going to get us what we need?
And that was just a bunch of Republicans saying they wanted to say no because they could say no.
Is that the one that Manchin changed his idea on to allow it to pass?
I believe so.
Yes.
So if it didn't pass, who voted against it?
I
The
think-
Republicans.
wait a minute.
Other than the
hold on a second.
Republicans
Wait,
don't have a
hold on
majority.
second, Hold on a second. Wasn't the Manchin thing that he changed his vote on climate change?
Yes, I believe. I can't remember which one.
Okay, this wasn't the
One of
Manchin
those-
vote then?
No.
No.
I don't think so.
No, this was just
It was a
Congress.
bipartisan agreement until today, I believe.
And then they decided we aren't being assholes enough. Then they had,
Exactly.
They had,
So,
they had to get
there's
their
50
asshole cred going. You know.
Well, there's a
Basically,
majority.
they sit around and spit on the veterans.
There's a majority in the House and Senate of Democrats. Why couldn't this pass? Was it the filibuster in the Senate, or was it the House that didn't pass it?
Senate.
The Senate. So they needed 60 votes.
I believe so, yeah. Can't say for sure, but that's where it was.
Look, this country, you know, we pay a lot of taxes every year. And, yeah, some of us
Yes.
pay a lot of taxes. I know I did over the years. And when you give your money to the government in taxes, you're hoping that you're going to get something back for it. You deserve to get something back for it. You owe it to me. I gave you some money, some of my money, to take care of stuff. Okay? Now you're supposed to take care of the stuff. And when you don't take care of the stuff, then you're stealing my money. And I honestly believe that it really what's happening now is involuntary theft of our money every year when they take taxes, because if we don't pay taxes, we go to jail. Okay? So, I mean, isn't that a kind of robbery of sorts, of holding us up and then not giving us anything for it? Yes, Kevin.
Someone on the chat said the pork was money to rural health centers to take care of veterans who are not near major cities where VA services are available.
That was the pork?
That was the pork, and the GOP said no.
Didn't Trump say that if you needed medical care as a veteran, they would give you a credit card and you go to whoever and wherever you wanted? That you weren't restricted?
Yeah,
to
but
VA
that
centers?
was several years ago. A friend of mine actually did that.
Does it still exist?
I
That
don't know.
particular program?
He still goes. He lives up in Alaska now, and he still goes to the doctor. So I imagine so.
So why do they need that other program if
Apparently,
they have
there's
this
some
one?
other places that doesn't have that. I don't know.
They have doctors. They give them a credit card and say, go get your.
Well, it's not that
Okay.
easy. Apparently, I know he has issues with it sometimes. But if that was the pork, and I can't verify that, but that's what Scott Kaprowski on the chat said that, and
Yeah.
I can't verify it, but
Well, that's not normally what
sounds
I would,
about right.
That's not normally what I would call pork.
I wouldn't call that pork. I'd call that just another more help for the vets. But it's $400 million, and we wouldn't want that to happen.
Yeah, for all we owe to the vets, 400 million is a drop in the bucket.
Thank you for your service. Yes, Brian.
No, I'm just.
Brian, what were you going to say?
No, I just said I'm ready to retire so I can move somewhere else.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I wish
Um,
I were younger, and I'd do exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, really,
I like
would.
that picture. All the service members have their back to Donald.
Yeah. By the way, can I
Donald
ask
Trump.
you, Phil, how many years did you serve?
21.
No, how many years did you serve?
21.
21?
I served my community for 21 years.
No. How much?
I wore a
He's
gun.
never
I
been,
took an
he's
oath.
never been in the military.
And you got.
I served 21 years
you
to the
got-
community.
And you
But
got free donuts
Hmm.
for your service.
Yeah, and
Nah,
Phil,
I didn't even get that.
and
I had
Phil,
a-
if you got your leg blown off, do you think they would take care of you?
Probably not.
Probably not.
But should they?
City of
Should
Richmond.
But should they, Phil?
But should they?
The City of Richmond would disavow any knowledge.
I see. Always a joke.
They push him
It's not
over.
a
They
joke.
push him over to
It's
Del
true.
They
Cerrito.
always say joke. I'm serious.
What's that? If my leg got blown
Would
off,
there
would
be an
they-
expectation that they would take care of you? If you
no,
needed
they
a
wouldn't
ramp-
take care of me. I had workers' compensation insurance, and they would have given me a medical treatment, maybe retrained me, but nobody would have bought me a house.
Yeah, John Redshaw says that John Stewart explained it was not a slush fund. It's no pork there. That's good, solid stuff they wanted to do extra. But, So, hello, Tony.
Yeah, I was enjoying the conversation. I was listening to it.
Finally, I know.
Yeah, I heard the Jon Stewart thing this afternoon too.
What'd you think?
I like him, so I like anything he kind of.
Would you vote for him?
Yeah, I would vote for Jon Stewart. I definitely would.
I don't think he wants to run, but
I mean, I always liked him when he was on TV. So I think he's a nice
that's
guy.
not a reason to want to vote for him.
No, but I mean, he seems genuine what he does, like outside the show, though. You know, he seems like he really cares. I mean,
He's been unrelenting in his pursuit of help for the 9/11 people.
I mean, I have my cousin Kevin's a fireman, so he's got bladder cancer, so they're trying to tie it into the 9/11 fund. He's having.
Was he down there? Was he down there?
Yeah, he's down there. At the
Okay,
dump,
well then he probably
he loves Jon Stewart. Yeah, I mean
he could have bladder cancer because people just get bladder cancer, but
but he's like my
nevertheless,
age.
it's
Is he a
suspicious.
cigarette smoker, Tony?
No, he doesn't smoke or nothing, Kevin.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah, he's recovering, but
Hey, Alan, how much do you give every month to the Wounded Warriors?
What does that matter?
yeah, really.
I'm
what
just
does that
curious.
he looks
What
like
does that
I
matter?
mean, text him.
No, he said that his credit card gets charged every month.
I don't
How
think
much?
that he should have to answer that question because he didn't
Yeah,
even
he
want it.
probably-
He let it slip that he even gave that money. You know.
Oh, he doesn't
I'm not
let it
posting
slip in.
pictures,
No, he let it slip, Phil. Unlike you, who shows a picture of the giant check you guys raised.
I mean, yeah, I mean,
you
the
know,
check is
very
big.
subtle, Phil. Very.
You
subtle.
know, it's important to get-
You're such a good guy, Phil.
It's
God.
important to get the word out.
You know.
It's a cause that I believe in,
Right.
and you've got 30 or 40
Well, we need to see
listeners,
you.
and they should know about the Tunnel of Towers, Stephen Siller Tunnel of
Well, there are a
Towers.
lot of. They should also know there are a lot of other organizations
Hmm.
that also do similar things that don't get the same kind of publicity and could probably use your help.
Almost
Habitat for
100% of
Humanity.
the money goes to the cause.
Habitat for Humanity.
Habitat for
My,
Humanity.
my mom gave to St. Jude's. she saved the letters, like the
Speaking
thank yous.
of, speaking of Habitat for Humanity, Vernon does that. And speaking of Vernon, he lives in Kentucky. Does anybody know if he's okay with all the floods that are going on there?
He probably is okay. I would imagine.
I don't have his
You
contact.
know, but every time there used to be a flood somewhere near where I was, or within the 200 miles of where I was, people would always get a hold of me and go, "Are you okay?" You know, I go,
Earthquake.
I don't live in Lake Tahoe. There's no forest fire here in my neighborhood. You know.
Earthquake's the same thing. There's some small earthquake and it gets advertised
Yeah.
in Southern California, and everybody asks me,
Yeah.
"Are you okay?"
You okay? You
On
doing
Facebook,
Oh no, my house is needing repair. Could you send me some money?
on Facebook,
Donate,
a lot of
please.
people
For Phil.
can post when they're okay. You know, if there's a
Oh,
disaster, they can post and let people
Yeah.
know that they're safe.
So are you going to come to my rescue, Phil? Because I was a veteran. I am a veteran.
Yeah, I'll send you a microphone.
I was I was around for the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
I served during the Vietnam War.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
And your service was greatly appreciated. And I'm sure we would have built a house for you, but you didn't ask.
Well, actually, I did something pretty valuable, to
Yeah.
tell you the truth.
You were wanted by the Chinese, weren't you, or the Vietnamese?
There was a price on my head in China. Yeah.
Yeah, you had a price.
Yeah, about 50
$7.
cents.
No, it's $39.95 on sale from $59.99.
Yeah.
Everything's 95. Yeah.
No, they actually, anybody who was on Armed Forces Radio, they had on a list as being a propagandist,
Oh, really?
and that we were considered to be, whatever that is,
Yeah.
So I was that, and I was on Nixon's enemies list too.
The Nixon list I like, Alex. Too bad you couldn't get a copy. Was there an actual copy of his list?
Well, there were two lists. There was a list of 1,000 people who he just
an
wanted
actual,
to get thrown
it
in
actually
jail.
existed.
Yeah, and then there were 12,000 of us who were listed as to be audited by the IRS.
Was it because of your participation with Abby Hoffman or association?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well,
In fact, I had a FBI file. On my FBI file, supposedly, I've never gone and gotten it, said that I was known to consort with radicals, with political
what's it
radicals.
called when you request the documents and they'll send it to you?
I forget now. It's called transparency.
Document requests.
No. There's actually a thing that
After 21 years of service to the community, you don't know what it's called?
well, it's a federal thing. It's the documents. You can request
Freedom of
your
Information Act?
Freedom of
files. That's
Information
it.
Act.
Freedom of Information Act.
Yeah, I just never got it. I was too lazy. I can probably still get it if I want it.
Is it simple to request something like
I
that?
don't
through the
know. I
Freedom
really don't
Act?
know.
Josh would probably know that.
I'm entitled to it. Let me put it that
Yeah.
way. Now, whether I have to jump through hoops to get it is another question altogether.
They send it redacted.
Well, I think I get most of it now. I don't think that there's too much in there they have to redact, But no, they. In fact, there was a who was it that was on the run from the law? Bernadette Dorn.
Oh, I watched
Was on the run from the law, and I was staying with my friend Stu Albert up at his place up in upstate New York. And while I was napping one day, she dropped by while she was on the run from the law. And supposedly there were FBI agents in the woods watching with high-powered binoculars, and I'm in that description of what went on.
Who shot Ford? That wasn't Dorn, right?
Squeaky Fromm.
Squeaky
I was
Fromm.
Charles Manson, crazy lady. Yeah.
Yeah. Squeaky Fromm, yeah. She tried to shoot him. She didn't
Did
get
she
him.
shoot him, Alex, or no?
No.
I think
Was
she
that in
used
New
the
York?
starter pistol.
Huh? That happened in California, I
Was
think.
California?
San Francisco.
There were two situations.
Was it San Francisco or Sacramento?
One was
San
Bernard,
Francisco.
one was Squeaky Fromm. The other one who went after Ford was a woman, and I'm trying to remember her name now. And she shot at him, or came after him with a gun.
Now,
But
Bernadette Dorn, was that Chelsea Bodine's mother?
no,
Oh, who was his mother?
who's Chelsea Bodine?
He was the
Sounds like
DA
a
in San
character-
Francisco.
Sounds like
That was-
a character on the Beverly
No, he was the
Hillbillies.
DA in San Francisco that was just recalled, and he was the son of two.
Oh
of
yes,
the-
he was the son of I think maybe Bernadine Dorn.
Yeah,
and,
that's what I thought.
and the guy up in Buffalo. What's his name? That they gave Obama a
Medal of
bad
Freedom?
time. No, Obama a bad time about knowing.
Oh yeah, what was his name again?
God,
Bill Ayers.
Bill Ayers.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Oh, I thought Bill Ayers brought up Chelsea Boudin, but that he was the son of Bernadette Dorn and one other person that was in jail, and I thought
okay.
Bill Ayers was his surrogate father.
I think it was his stepfather. Yeah,
Yeah.
But I saw Bernadine Dorn and Bill Ayers a couple of years ago. I went to a what do you call it? A get together to celebrate Stu Albert's life when he died, and they were there.
Celebration of life.
Yeah, and they got up and they gave some speeches, and boy, I thought, these people are just a bunch of old. I hate being here because these are a bunch of old radicals trying to live the heyday, right? And these people got up and gave speeches, and I just went, man, they still got it. They still believe it. They're still doing it, So I was, and it was good to be in their presence,
They got a lot of practice.
What do you mean they got a lot of practice?
Making the speech.
Oh, I see. Okay, all right. I think Bernadine Dorn was in that house. I think she fled the house that.
The SLA, the house that burned?
Blew up on a. No, it wasn't the SLA, Phil. Boy, you
That's the
get
one you said in
everything
the
wrong.
city, right?
The SLA
It was the Weather Underground.
Yeah.
Weather
That was
Under.
what Dustin Hoffman was in, wasn't that what you said that time?
SLA, that's funny.
Yeah, I got it confused with the Weather
It
Underground.
was the guy, the house next to Dustin Hoffman's.
Yeah, I
that
remember you
blew up.
saying that.
Yeah, but she escaped it. So, But those were fun times. I'll tell you.
That'll bring the value down of those houses in the neighborhood.
I was remembering remembering the other day to Marjorie, the time that and I wondered whether it really was true. I got a call from somebody who said, "Do you want to interview Patty Hearst on the run?"
Wow.
And I said, "Yes, I would love to." He says, "Well, she's here she's in New Jersey. I won't say where." And we'll give you the interview, but we want $1,000. And I said, I can't do that. I said, I don't pay for interviews. Okay, she wants to give an interview, fine. I'm sympathetic to her cause and so on and so forth. But I'm not gonna pay her any money. And the station wouldn't. If I did it, the station would be very mad if I did. And so that was that. Well, I often wondered whether that was a legitimate call or not. And then I watched
She
a
comes from
documentary.
such a poor family.
Will you let me finish my story, please?
About time you yelled at somebody else.
Jeez, I'm trying to tell a story and then I just bing. But no, I said I was watching a documentary on Patty Hearst that they did a few years ago on CNN. Sure enough, at that specific time, she was in New Jersey.
Ooh.
She lived in New Jersey for about a year.
You don't think somebody was trying to con you out of $1,000 and there was really no interview?
Well, no, he said she was in New Jersey.
I understand that he might have had some information,
well,
but
I often wondered about that until I found out she was in New Jersey at that time, and the guy wasn't lying to me. So
She might have been right over the bridge.
yeah, so it's that.
Why do you keep looking at the time? There's no Jack show.
Well, I know, I just habit.
That's Friday night. You might as well stay on an extra half hour.
No, we tried that, but Phil was on that night too. Remember?
Oh yeah.
What's that?
Yeah. Well,
I don't know. He's been pretty tame tonight.
But
Bill has been pretty tame tonight.
Alex said the other day under his breath, "I wish this was like the Monday show." So I'm just trying to give him what he wants.
You hardly come to the quality of the Monday show.
Well, I was pushing in that direction.
Brian and Jeff are very typical of people, and even Kevin. He's called that show a couple of times.
I'm not trying to do your Monday show. I have no time for it. But the thing is,
we
it's
don't
right
want
in the
you
middle
on
of my
Monday
workday.
show. So even if you had time for it, we wouldn't make time for it.
I could wear a mask. You wouldn't know it was me.
Yeah, right.
I'll wear my Bubba teeth.
Your Bubba
You
teeth.
sound just like Tony. You and Tony sound the same.
I'll use Tony's background.
Same accent.
Brandon is still crooked. You son of a bitch.
Anyway, hey, fun. It was fun tonight.
I like it.
Got it off to a good start with Josh. Thank you, Josh.
Yeah.
telling us what's up, and then when Jeff, of course, has been just the life of the party tonight.
That's right. Well, I was thinking about Vietnam.
Yeah.
All this
Were you
time.
also
Damn.
in the service, Jeff?
What did you say?
Did you serve?
I did in a certain way. I worked on the atomic bomb.
Oh, cool.
You worked on the atomic bomb?
Is
For the Manhattan
that the
Project?
is that the Teller Edward Teller?
It's called the Manhattan Project, Phil.
No, but in Lawrence Livermore Lab, work was that the hydrogen or the atomic that
You
Edward
can't
Teller?
say. Stop.
Huh?
No, I worked on a airplane that had
I worked on.
several atomic bombs.
I'd like to say I worked on a bomb. This show. Anyway,
Hey, you
Jeff,
created it.
Jeff, thank you so much, Alex. Well, you're welcome. Thanks, Josh. We really appreciate it. Alan, thank you. Thank you, Brian, and thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Phil.
Thank you, Alex.
And thank you, Tony. Very nice to hear from you tonight. Yes, there he is. Everybody, give a big wave goodbye, and I'll give a big wave goodbye at you, and then we will fade to me. Let me see here. Oh yes, here comes my camera. There we are. Hello, everybody. That's it for tonight. Jack is not on tonight, as you know, because he's in the hospital, but he's still in one piece. Okay, so don't. He sounded great when I talked to him today. Didn't sound like anybody that should be in the hospital, but anyway, stick around for him. I'll see you again on Monday with the pop-up show on Facebook at 4 o'clock on Monday, and then next week, same time, same station in life. In the meantime, you know, if you see her, tell her I love her. Okay, bye bye, everybody.